Okay, so we just wrapped up Wednesday Well Check. This was the last Wednesday Well Check for the month of May. You guys know that May was or is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we started off talking about, what the difference between mental health and mental illness is. How can we be intentional about taking care of the condition of our mind and the energy that we feel in and on our bodies to be in a place of optimum mental health. And so we looked at challenging and releasing false narratives. We talked about how do we, let go of that theme of responsibility and feeling like we have to be responsible for other people, other things, right? And so this week we talked about releasing what doesn't belong to us. So usually I share a recap, but I needed to talk out this recap because it was deep. It was deep for me. And so this is one of those wounded healer moments. And so if you are familiar with Carl Jung, he talks about the wounded healer and what that means. And the wounded healer is essentially someone who supports other folks in their wellness and their healing, but they have experienced, specific types of pain and injury in their life that they're able to support others in a certain way. So that is just like a little raggedy summary. But I wanted to talk out this recap because in this well check, we talked about what it means for us to be, to establish trust and safety in order to allow ourselves to be vulnerable so that we can let go of things that we're carrying that don't belong to us, but then also being able to pass the baton, trust people and be vulnerable enough to pass the baton so they can support us in our healing and just the things that we're managing from day to day. So when we do the Wednesday Well Check, we always start by clearing space and just checking in with how we're arriving. We always have a theme, that we're focusing on, whether we're leaning into the release and let go prompts or whether there is another theme that I have established. And then we go into a guided visualization or a breath exercise, whether it's mindfulness or somatic work, and then we do a reflection. So today, the guided visualization that we did just really triggered some things in me. And so this guided visualization was walking the road and releasing the bags. And essentially what I did was guided myself and all of the participants through walking down a road and just carrying all of these bags that are weighted and heavy, and carrying these bags that belong to us and that also belong to other folks. And so as we were going through the guided visualization, obviously we're supposed to pay attention to and notice what's showing up on our bodies as we're carrying the weight and where that sits. And then at some point we release the bags and then notice the shifts. And so this was triggering for me. So I triggered myself essentially, but this was triggering for me. And remember, triggers are pushing a button of things that are already stored inside. So you have things that are inside that you have not addressed or that you have not fully released and processed. And so when something is presented to you that feels the same, or if you're reminded of something that you have experienced, then you can be triggered. And so you can become numb, you can become overwhelmed, you can become emotional. And so in this particular instance, just describing carrying these bags and where all of the pressure was on our bodies reminded me of a time in my past that I felt the weight in the different areas of my body, and I was triggered because I was pressing those buttons. And so it ended well, but it just, like I said, it was a wounded healer moment, and I'm just grateful that we created this Wednesday Well Check so we can hold space for one another, but then also so that I can be reminded of the road that I have traveled on the journey in my healing. And then it also reminded me of maybe some things that I needed to work through. So I'm happy that I was able to release. I'm happy that I was able to cry for the Michelle of the past, but then also too for everyone that was on the call to be able to see that it works. So we will see y'all next time. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to y'all soon.